Higher.
Ew.
Nearer.
Longer. Faster.
Cyflymach.
Gwrando.
Listen.
Engage. Cysylltu.
Cynrychioli.
Represent.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Club Run Wales's fourth webinar. So the first one exclusively for Club Run members. Tonight, we're going to learn about the perfect recipe for recovery. My name's Bethan Davis, and I'll be your host this evening. I'm the communication assistant for Run Wales and Welsh Athletics, and this is Dave Rowe. He is our expert. He is the senior soft tissue therapist for Sport Wales and the Football Association of Wales. Before we kick off, a few housekeeping rules. So if you haven't been on one of these webinars before, your mics are off, your camera's off, and it'll stay that way for the whole presentation. If you have any questions, please pop them in the questions box. So you should have a little box on the right-hand side of your screen. There is a little questions section. Click the drop down, pop them in there, and at the end, I'll read them out to Dave, and hopefully he'll be able to answer them. So Dave, you are vastly experienced working in all levels of professional and amateur sport. You've provided support for World, Olympic, Paralympic, European, Commonwealth, British champions and medalists. You've dealt with football, rugby, athletics, swimming, cycling, boxing, hockey, wrestling, shooting, archery, triathlon, judo, table tennis, weightlifting, golf and disability athletes. You name it, you've supported it. Hopefully I haven't missed anything. So without further ado, over to you.
Bethan, thanks very much for that grand introduction. Most appreciative of the intro. Good evening, everyone. Hope you'll find this session interesting, informative and enlightening. It's a recovery and self-management session with advice, guidance and best practice and tips. We're going to focus on the importance of recovery and self-management, the importance of identifying exactly what recovery you're going to recover from, and also how to maximize recovery. Look at the basics of recovery, the basics of self-management, foam rolling and stretch, and other modalities, and finish with a Q&A session. So if you go to the first slide, as I said, I'm Dave Rowe, senior soft tissue therapist at Sport Wales Institute, and I've got a vast experience of sport at all different levels. I've worked in elite sport, I've worked in international sport, club sport, I've worked in private practice, so I'm quite well versed in dealing with recreational runners who aren't looking to qualify for major championship. They just want to keep fit and run actively for pleasure or anything else. And so I'm able to touch base with a lot of different ideas and angles from people in what they want to get from their sport and how they want to recover either themselves or via different modalities. So the key points to recover, to consider, is why recover? Recovery is the most important part of anyone's training program, be it elite or recreational. Sadly, it's often neglected. Recovery allows the muscles to recover, repair and refuel and adapt to the stresses associated with exercise and promotes physical and physiological recovery. Minimises injury risk and provides a better starting position for your next run, session or exercise, delaying the onset of any fatigue. Why take measures to recover? What I mean by measures is what do you need to do to recover? In that focus, we're looking at the structured recovery measures that you can do to ensure your process of recovery is optimized and most effective, and what to use to be more efficient of your precious time. Not just doing it for doing sake, but doing it more purpose and procedure, and to use your time wisely in your recovery. And the other question is, why self-manage? Why should you do it yourself? Can't you pay someone else to do it? Can't you just avoid it? I think self-management is relatively cheap. It's easily available. It's local to you, and it's available at your convenience. So it's quite important to get on board with it. What you need to do is, when you look at recovery, is try and understand what you're recovering from. When you exercise, at different phases of your training program, whatever level you're operating at, and as you'll see from the next diagram, we have quite a few different elements, 3 key phases of training. You have your general preparation phase, where your volume is going to be quite high, now long mileage, a lot of training programs, volume you're not used to doing, and your intensity is quite low. It's a general preparation phase, and then that transfers then into a specific preparation phase when you're going to fine-tune your training program into more race-specific or training-specific or program-specific analysis. And so your volume will decrease, but your intensity and focus will slightly increase a little bit more. And then through this specific preparation phase, you go into more competition phase and the build up to your race, your challenge, whatever you're focusing on, where you'll fine tune your technique, you'll fine tune your planning for the race, planning for the run, and the volume will decrease to a more manageable level. So during the early phases of general preparation, it's good to feel tired in that phase, but more cardiorespiratory adaptations will be high volumes, low capacity. In the specific preparation phase, you have lower volume, higher intensity, and start to place more emphasis on technique. And we're trying to minimize fatigue to optimize training quality. So as you're looking to be more specific in what you're trying to achieve, you don't want to be overly tired, so again, recovery is important. Then during the competition phase, that's your tapering period, pre-race, when you strong focus on your technique and your abilities, and then looking towards competition. You can get more information on this aspect through the Welsh Athletics YouTube channel. There's 2 great modules delivered by Dan Nash on the physiology of endurance running, parts 1 and 2, and the training aspects of recovery. It's more of a scientific base on the aspects, not recovery modalities, but just the principles of how you should use training in combination with your running program. So again, if you look on the Welsh Athletics YouTube channel, the physiology of endurance running, parts 1 and 2, you probably find part 2 more beneficial. So now, when you train, you go through different phases of strains and stresses. There are 4 main reactions to training. You have the mechanical stress, which following exercise involves impact of higher levels of effort, weight training, long distance running, speed and so forth. Mechanical damage can occur. Recovery from this element tries to limit the inflammation and soreness that follows. The neuromuscular strain, when you exercise at high intensity or performing heavy weight training, the neural pathways can become fatigued, meaning your muscles are less excitable. Recovery aims to limit this reduction and restore excitability at a higher rate. The sympathetic stress is when you exercise for long periods, especially in the heat at high intensity. The sympathetic nervous system is maximally stimulated and results in an imbalance. Recovery in this phase needs to reactivate the parasympathetic nervous system and balance the autonomic nervous system. Quite technical terminology, which gives you a little bit of insight into the mechanics of how the body reacts to strain and stress or exercise. And finally, there's a thermal element whereby stress through running or exercising in hot temperatures will cause dehydration levels. And again, different aspects of recovery will target those thermal recoveries. So recovery. The important thing to do with recovery is look at the basics. The 3 basic principles of recovery, which supersede every other thing you've heard about recovery. You've got to look at nutrition, sleep, and hydration. We'll go into each in greater detail very shortly. These basic elements of recovery should be done all the time, every day, every time you exercise, look to target them. They're easily accessed. I'll guarantee that most of you are doing these 3 elements on a daily basis without actually realizing it. One of the questions I ask a lot of new athletes is that, can you tell me what recovery elements you're doing at the moment? And very few actually put their hands up in the air to say they're doing any. But then when we question them, do you eat, do you sleep, do you drink water? Everyone puts their hand up. So these 3 elements of recovery have been proven to amount to 80% of an athlete's recovery, regardless of status. So they're the really basic ingredients of the recipe for good, efficient and effective recovery. If we go into each and every bit in greater detail, so sleep, what does it do? It relaxes the growth hormones which build and aid muscle recovery. It's essential for optimal and normal functioning. It's important for a healthy immune system, learning, memory, concentration and decision making, which is quite important if you're trying to balance an exercise lifestyle program with educational aspects, family aspects, job aspects, what to do, how much do you need. In an exercise phase, training phase, you're going to get a good 7 to 9 hours per night to allow the elements to really kick in. You need to be aware of good sleep hygiene, good sleep practice. Poor sleep can affect all these elements, having full effective elements. And when I mean sleep hygiene, I'm looking at avoiding caffeine or alcohol, or eating too close to bedtime, or exercising too close to bedtime, which will stimulate your muscular and nervous system. You might want to have a warm bath or warm shower to help you to relax. Keep your room cool is another good element. Get that core temperature down while you're sleeping. Have a good routine before bedtime, nice and consistent. Try and go to bed at the same time on a regular basis. Switch off, relax. Limit exposure to light, natural light, light in the room. More important these days, particularly with the ease of TVs in bedrooms, phones, laptops, computers, to try and avoid them before you go to sleep, to minimize that extra stimulation that your brain and mind might focus on. So I'd say if you get a good routine going just before bedtime, it's good sleep hygiene, good practice, and that will ensure you get a good quality 7 to 9 hours sleep. Next we go on to nutrition. Nutrition plays a vital important in terms of recovery. 3 elements to look for in good recovery are refueling, repair and rehydration. You lose a lot of energy when you run, whatever the distance. You deplete your glycogen stores, your carbohydrate stores, your energy producers. So you need to refuel. You need to rehydrate with fluids, particularly in warm weather. This time of year we just experienced in August and July, more increased temperatures. So you sweat more. So you need to replace those fluids as quick as you possibly can. And the repair element, take in probably between 20 to 40 grams of protein post-exercise, and using a rule of thumb, particularly with endurance runners, of 1.2 to 1.4 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. You do a quick calculation, and that will sufficiently repair the muscles by taking sufficient amounts of protein in. When to do it? The ideal window of opportunity for the 3 hours is 0 to 45 minutes post-exercise. So you can usually prepare a snack that you can take with you if you train away from home, put it in your kit bag. And if you look online, particularly on the Sport Wales Nutrition team, we've got an Instagram site on SWP Nutrition. They've got lots of ideas in terms of good, healthy food choices, alternatives, recipes to target the refueling, repair, and rehydration elements. You may wonder why we've got a picture of the chocolate drink. It's a proven fact that a pint of chocolate milk ticks all 3 recovery boxes. Helps you to refuel, helps repair and rehydrate. It's quite a nice welcome home after a long run. And I say protein is very important. You get your protein from your milk. And again, on West Athletics YouTube channel, there's a really good article, a video piece on fueling for endurance training. Make a note of that. I had a look at myself the other day. It's really, really informative. I've pinpointed some elements for you to go directly to if you're short of time, so an hour and a bit. If you look on 34 minutes in, there's a good look on recovery. If you go to the 37-minute counter, there's some ideas for menu planning. And then it's a good feature on article on hydration at 37 minutes. So if you target that channel, you'll get some really good information in conjunction with the West Athletics YouTube channel. Give that a definite look out for. And so, like I said, the Sport Wales Performance Nutrition Team Instagram account, SWP Nutrition, you should find it on that. The one thing with recovery, particularly nighttime recovery, just be careful avoiding alcohol, avoiding drinking too much or eating too heavily within an hour window before you go to bed. It can then cause increased bathroom visits, which may disturb your sleep quality. So we're looking at good sleep hygiene, but try not to drink or eat too close to bedtime. Make that part of your routine. And finally, active recovery is an additional element to the 3 basic ones. As you can see from the picture, it's a setup we did with a football team recently, whereby we've got a combination of elements of active recovery. We've got bikes in the right-hand corner. We've got some hurdles for some dynamic step-throughs. We've got foam rollers, hockey balls, an area where you can stretch, either actively or passively using belts. And there's also, in this case, a soft tissue bed set up, some hands-on treatment. What you're looking to do with active recovery is low to moderate intensity, but no longer than 30 minutes. 20 to 30 minutes is ideal. Low intensity, using the same muscle groups that you've used during your exercise. So if you're running, you're looking at your quads, your hamstrings, your calves, your hips, your glutes. Include some dynamic movements in terms of dynamic stretching, step-throughs using hurdles. All this will help prevent additional damage the exercise has instigated, relax DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, and support blood flow, reduce additional fatigue. So you can usually incorporate an active recovery, either quite structured, in this case we've done with a squad, or it can become as simple as a light run after your run, a little bit of stretching, or even a walk. The best element of most runs is that 5-minute walk. If you finish your walk, you run sooner than normal, and the walk back to the car, back to your house, and just nice and steady, nice and slow, and just enjoy the run you've just done. So taking great pleasure from what you've achieved, and using that walk back, that slow jog back, that stretch to have an active recovery element. So the main point focus is self-management. So foam rolling is an easy option for most people to encompass. You've probably heard about it, you probably do it, but yeah, I think that the important thing to do it is have an element of structure. So know what you're doing, what's best practice, know what you're looking to achieve. If you're looking to maximise your time, 3 to 5 times a week, 3 sets of 20 to 30 seconds per muscle group. What does it do? There's some research and evidence out there that suggests there's short and long-term benefits, and it may also reduce reducing sensation of delayed onset muscle soreness. You can use foam rollers, you can use tennis balls, you can use hockey balls for pinpointing it. You can use hand rollers, you can use massage sticks. The important thing is to be focused in your foam rolling. Try and focus on areas which need additional input. Don't stay on one spot for too long. Don't use bad posture, and don't run too quickly. I think that the key element to be is stay focused and perception of what needs to be done. And don't roll on injured areas. It shouldn't really hurt in that respect. Combined with foam rolling, I would also look to do some stretching. Stretching is quite a good active technique. Helps reduce muscle soreness, helps reduce muscle stiffness, and regain that pre-exercise range of motion. So they allow you to reduce DOMS, muscle soreness, and also be ready to go again for the next session when next time you exercise. When you run, your muscles will shorten a little bit. That's why hydration is quite important. That's why stretch is quite important to get the muscle range back to a normal range of movements. Inhale slowly to the point of tension and hold it. It's important to stretch, not strain. Don't fight against your muscles. Make sure you work with them as opposed to against them. And hold for 15 to 30 seconds, about 1 to 3 sets, and relax if you can. Don't stretch after high intensity or strengthening sessions to prevent additional damage. Don't bounce, but ease into it and stretch muscles that are experiencing DOMS or muscle soreness. It's quite a key element to focus in. Different types of stretching, static, active or passive, either you do it or you get a partner to help stretch. Dynamic, which is that walk through over hurdles, over boxes and so forth. Can be ballistic, a little bit of movement, and also isometric, whereby you can work and lengthen the muscle, but actually changing its dynamics. That's a bit more involved, but I'll focus on static stretching, or probably dynamic stretching in the first instance. So let's look at self-management in particular. So self-management focuses on stretching and foam rolling. So you need to have a good plan of self-management and target specific areas for maximum effect. What I'd look to do is focus on what way you just run from and target those muscles, and have and think globally and not just locally. We've all experienced muscle soreness in calves. We've gone for a run. We've got in hamstrings and glutes. But sometimes, if you're short of time, you can target areas away from the point of soreness to release areas further down the chain. A lot of people take time and effort and discomfort by working through foam rolling IT band. If it works for you, I'm not going to say don't do it. If you were to ask me, Dave, should I be foam rolling IT band because I'm going to stiff there? I probably would work against it. I would probably say no. The IT band, the tibia band, is a connective tissue which connects your hip to your knee. It's there for strength. Recent survey in 2008 showed that you need 2,000 pounds worth of force to change the IT band by 1%. So that's a lot of force, which is really beyond human capacity. So if you're looking to change that stiffness, that tension on the lateral part, the outside part of your thigh, your IT band, I've looked a little bit higher on the outside of your hip, or fleshy area where the muscle, the tensor fascia lata muscle, TFL, or the glute medius muscle outside the hip, focused, and that's where I look to foam roll or get a hockey ball by getting some suppleness and release through those fleshy muscular areas. It will take the pressure off the IT band. If you work through glutes, on the back of the glute, back of the hip, side of the hip, and front of the hip flexors, you can take a lot of pressure off your quads, hamstrings, and even into lower back. So the quick fixes, I'd be looking around that lateral side, posterior, back and front hip flexor area to impact on your quads, your hamstrings, your lower back, into mid-back area. If you are, you've got the convenience of time, and again, you can then focus into quads, hamstrings, and calves, and so forth. So look globally as well as locally. and see how you can affect it. It's good to have a routine. Like I say, a lot of people know about stretching, they know about foam rolling, they've seen people do it, and they just attack straight away. I'll show you in a minute a routine we planned for a group of our athletes to guide them through the best way to plan their programming, and they've had really good elements with it. So this is what we prescribed for a group of young athletes. The duration, I hope you see that, is 20 to 30 seconds per muscle, 3 to 5 reps each side. And the frequency, we give it to them daily, or at least on alternate days, pre and post training, for preparation for their programming and also recovery. And we gave them the routine, 8 different exercises to do, focusing on plant the fascia of the feet, up to the calves, into hamstrings, hips and glutes, flip them onto the front, quads, hip flexors, adductors, inner thigh, and then lateral hip. So I've targeted a focus from foot upwards to the hip. Advise them then on how many sets to do, how to feel, and importantly, give them key points to remember. So giving athletes this structure, I find that it gives them a little bit of focus and planning on what to do in what order and to maximize their time. And again, it's just that principle. With best practice, there's no gold standard of best practice out there, but based on research, guidance, advice, this is something we've brought together within Sport Wales to share with our athletes. I'm prepared to share with you this evening. So this is what I'd look to you to try and aim for when you're looking to do self-management of foam rolling. Frequency is important. Self-management is one of those elements which you only realise how valuable it is when you stop doing it. So keep frequently with it, consistency as well as key elements. So you're looking at ideally on a daily basis if you can, but worst case scenario, 3 to 5 times a week. Duration, you're looking at 3 to 5 sets of each exercise, 20 to 30 seconds per muscle group. Again, if you're short on time, target those muscle areas which can have additional benefits through that chain or above that chain. Avoid rolling on your lower back. I see a lot of people trying to do lower back foam rolling, but actually there's not a lot of tissue between your lower back and your lumbar spine, and you can, by applying pressure, the foam roller actually cause the muscles around it to tighten up as a protection measure. So if you're looking to target lower back release, I tend to go into the glute area, the buttock area, and into the thoracic, shoulder, mid-back area, again above and below, to get that muscle relaxation knock-on effect. Speaking of the spine, never really roll on bony joints, spinal area, or on injured areas. It's quite safe to go in the thoracic area. There's big muscle groups, latissimus dorsi, trapezius, rhomboids, lats. They protect the spine, so you're not really going to go really into that spinal area. But the lower back is more bony and can have problems. Always maintain good posture, form and attention. Think about what you're doing. Take your time. Don't get distracted by other people. Don't get distracted by TV. Don't get distracted by your phone. Put your phone away. Connect with your foam rolling. Connect with your self-management. Maintain good posture. A lot of the techniques for self-management foam rolling, hockey ball work, tennis ball work, involve doing a plank. If you can perfect your plank, you'll get good posture. So doing side plank, prone plank, supine plank, taking your weight through your arms or through your legs. So always maintain good posture. Don't put this pressure on your hips, on your back, on your shoulders. Support your weight through your arms or your legs. And be inventive. Use alternatives. If you find a foam roller is too difficult, too hard, use something different. Use a tennis ball. Use a hockey ball if you want more pressure, variety of impact. You can use handheld devices in terms of massage sticks, massage rollers. You can use a ball in your hand to the area. Just be eventful. and make it more interesting. But one overriding message I would give, which culminates in all these elements, is be mindful, slow and perceptive. Be mindful in terms of thinking about what you're doing, when you're doing it, how often. Be slow so that you can take time with what you're doing, connect with it, and be perceptive in terms of seeing how your muscles are reacting. A lot of people avoid the tight areas because they're painful, but can you work in them? Can you work around them? Can you go above a little bit? Can you go to the side? Can you tease your techniques into the muscle? So that's self-management. And what we'll go on to now is other elements, other modalities of recovery, which are more passive from your point of view. Sports massage is one, sports therapy, sports massage therapy, soft tissue therapy. It's what I'm qualified in, it's what I do. What does it do? It's claimed to relieve knots, relax and stretch muscles, which it does. It enhances range of movement by soft tissue release, restores suppleness and elasticity, restores muscle resting length. Importantly, relaxes the body and mind. A lot of recovery elements is actually the perception of being recovered and ready to go again. It gives you time out. It may help with reducing inflammation. Hasn't been proven yet, but it hasn't been proven it doesn't. When to do it? Depends what phase you're in. You can use it as a recovery, you can use it preparation, or you can use it between events. So if you're doing an athletics event and you've got one race and you've got another race in a couple of hours' time, you can recover from one and prep for the other. But as a recovery modality, it's usually post-event, and the ideal window for that is usually within 48 hours. So ideally as soon after the event as possible, up to 2 days to get any real benefit. It's quite important to target muscle groups that again have been worked through that range. One of the downsides of sports massage is that it can be painful and it can be expensive. So again, self-management is a readily available and cheaper option, and arguably just as effective. Hydrotherapy, you can use water, warm water, to help relax the muscles, help stretch them. What does it do? Ideally in temperatures of 32 degrees to 34 degrees, 15 to 20 minutes. So long as you incorporate elements of walking, swimming, joint mobilization, stretching, active movements, relaxation, helps to reduce muscle soreness, muscle stiffness, increases tissue temperature, makes it a bit more pliable, good to address them with stretching, mobility work, increases blood flow, gets a lot of the waste away from the muscle, and improves flexibility. So again, an element which you can do. Again, access, it depends where you are, what access you've got. Compression garments you may or may not have heard of. You get compression garments for the whole body, just or the legs, or the body, or just the calves. It helps to recover maximal strength, restore power, reduces leg soreness and delayed onset muscle soreness. Make sure the pressure is sufficient. You get what you pay for sometimes. You're looking for 30 to 15 pressure elements on that. Use it as soon as you finish your exercise, as soon as you finish your shower. Use it recovery, something you can sleep in. Make sure it's a graduated pressure. Cold water immersion, ice baths, cold baths. Doesn't have to be ice bath, as the picture shows. You're looking for a temperature of between 11 and 15 degrees, which is quite cold. I wouldn't go below that, it's too cold. And you're looking for 11 to 15 minutes. Helps reduce inflammation, helps reduce DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, reduces tissue temperature if you're suffering from thermal stress, and reduces symptoms of DOMS, and reduces muscle blood flow, which you'll get more increased blood flow with exercise, cause swelling around joints and cause DOMS. And so with cold water immersion, it can reduce the element of blood flow. Contrast therapy, combination of the last two in terms of hot and cold. You're looking to access two tubs of water if you can, rotate between the two. One should be cold water of 10 to 15 degrees, the other 38 to 40, hot water, and 7 rotations, 40 minutes each. So 1 minute in, 1 minute out, 1 minute in, times 14, so 40 minutes. Again, access to contrast therapy is difficult. Helps to reduce muscle soreness, muscle strength loss, and is a good marker of muscle damage. If you haven't got 2 baths, you can use a shower, use the shower head, and focus on those muscle groups which need it. So again, look at major muscle groups, hamstrings, quads, calves, stand in a cold shower, change it then to a warm bath, cold shower and warm bath. Again, with these additional modalities, they are added extras to the basics. Soft tissue therapy, massage therapy, hydrotherapy, compression garments, massage guns, quite popular nowadays. They're all additional. They'll give you 20% of the recovery that's missing, but unless you do the basic recovery elements, nutrition, hydration, and sleep with some active recovery, they won't go anywhere near getting enough recovery. You can't substitute the fancy ones for the basics. So a takeaway message I would give anyone is for your 80% recovery, look at self-management and the basics. And if you've got access or can afford the additional 20%, the icing on the cake, look at that as well and see if it works for you. Recovery is quite personal, doesn't work for everyone. There's a lot of options out there. If you have got facilities to access, I would try it, see how it works for you, and then see how you get on with it. But the key elements is basic ingredients of recovery and as much self-management as you could administer. So what's the stop tour of recovery self-management? Thank you for your attention. I'm going to give the floor open to you now and ask for any questions.
Fantastic, Dave. Oh, so much information. And there is already...
I do apologise.
No, that's fine. Really good. There's so much to recovery.
What I would say, I hope people have got questions, but if there aren't any questions or people think later or they want to recap on any aspects of information, I'll put my email address up there on screen, and I'm more than happy to answer questions or give further advice or go through any elements again. It's a topic I'm quite passionate about, and I'm quite more than happy to share and help. I found working with the athletes right across the board, particularly in the elite environment, everyone knows about recovery, everyone's heard about it, everyone's heard of self-management, but it's being effective and efficient with your time. And a lot of people dismiss it because they haven't got time to do it, and they just want to run, they just want to cycle, they just want to swim. And I'm on a little bit of a crusade to try and get people recovering properly so they can perform effectively. So like I say, any elements which people aren't sure about away from this webinar, I'm more than happy to engage with via email. But hopefully we've got some questions to fire through, and hopefully I can answer them.
We do. So the first question is, would your recovery strategy be different for runners in the general preparation phase than in the specific preparation phase due to changes in volume and intensity?
Yes, I think if you're in your general phase, your volumes are quite high, so your fatigue levels are going to be quite high anyway. So I'll probably look at being more restructured in your general phase recovery. That first element where your volume is high, your mileage is high, or you're taking on board different training programs which you aren't used to. So you really need, in that high volume, you need to be really prepared and ready to go for your next run. So it's quite important that you take time out to recover properly, you're really focused, so that when you do then go out for your next run or your next bout of exercise, you're fully recovered and your starting position is as optimal as it possibly can. So then the effects of the train and run don't kick in too soon. If you're not optimally recovered from one session to the next, your starting position is less, and you will fatigue quicker and you will tighten up quicker. When you're in your specific training phase, your volume isn't as much, so recovery should be slightly easier. So you wouldn't need as much care and attention or focus in that specific phase because you look at more technicalities of your events, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it really does. The next question is, as a runner, if you could foam roll one area, what would it be? It's like a dating question, isn't it?
Hips. I would target the gluteal muscles. I say hips. I would target glutes and hip flexors. I think a lot of the elements of knock-on effect from muscle tightness, hamstrings, adductors, quads, lower back, stem from tightness through the glutes. It's the biggest, densest muscle in your body, quite powerful and strong. And if they start to tighten up, they start to shorten, they will change the emphasis through your ability to run effectively. You know, they'll shorten your stride, they'll rotate your pelvis, put pressure on your back. So if you're short of time, I would definitely look to foam roll, and if you're able to, use a hockey ball or tennis ball to pinpoint that lateral outside hip area and your hip flexors.
Good advice, good advice. I'm going to combine two questions.
Okay.
So one person has said that when they do foam rolling, they find it painful, so they have to stop.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
someone else has said that after foam rolling, sometimes they experience bruising, and is this normal? So kind of a combination of both. What type of things should you be feeling or not feeling?
The one thing you shouldn't feel when you foam roll is pain or severe discomfort. I think the key element of foam rolling is to do it. If it's painful, the tendency is not to do it. So if you encounter any pain when you do it, you need to look at your mechanism of rolling. Either what you're rolling on might be too aggressive. There are a variety of foam rollers out there of different densities. As you progress as an athlete, you may find firmer, more bumpy or knobbly rollers more beneficial. If you're new to foam rolling, or you're new to exercise, new to running, you might need to go for a softer, less dense foam roller. If you still find it a little bit uncomfortable, then you need to reduce the pressure that you're exerting. A lot of foam rolling is based on body weight distribution. You roll on it, you lie on it. So if you can minimize the impact of your own body weight on that roller by supporting your weight through your arms or through your legs or your feet, so you lower yourself gently onto the foam roller, that's one option. Or if that's not possible, you can use it in a standing position. If you're looking at glutes or quads or back even, you can lean against a wall to do it. You can also use your hands, if you've got a ball, to mobilize and roll the ball with your hands, graduate that pressure. So it's all about weight distribution and pressure application, and the type of implement or tool, foam roller or ball that you're using. The other question was bruising, was that right?
Yeah, bruising.
You shouldn't cause any damage to any tissue when you're rolling. It says a recovery element. I think if you come across any bruised areas, avoid them. Any injured areas, any bruising shouldn't really be rolled. You cause more damage than do good. I would go above and below any bruised area to try and give some relief to the muscles around it, and avoid it. Avoid working on bruised muscle. Again, if you're finding that you're bruising after foam rolling, you've really got to look at your weight management in the technique delivery. The bottom line is foam rolling is there to benefit you and aid your recovery or preparation, and it should not hurt.
There's another question actually, which I think you may have slightly covered in the last one.
Okay.
What's the difference between a flat foam roller and a bumpy foam roller? So is it just personal preference, or are there benefits? Or
I think it is down to personal preference. People like to feel a little bit of a burn sometimes when they're doing any self-management. But you get a different degree of traction on the tissue. If it's got a raised or gridded surface, it tends to get a bit more myofascial release of the tissues, and it impacts a little bit more effectively on the fascial layers as opposed to the muscular tissue layers. As fascia surrounds every element of soft tissue, it surrounds the bone, it surrounds the muscle, it surrounds the the ligaments and tendons. And you can't really target the fascia by using smooth surface. If you're using a smooth surface roller, you're just applying some pressure into the muscle to help it relax. But if you want to get that element of release into the fascia and that torque and tension release, then you're looking at something that almost like grip the muscle. So that's where your gridded or your knobby elements of foam roller can come into play. They can be quite unforgiving if you're not used to it. I wouldn't advocate people start with ridged or gridded foam rollers. Try it if someone else has got one, but if you're new to it, or new to exercise, new to running, new to foam rolling, new to self-management, I would start off with a smoother one and see how you get on with that.
Another question about recovery tools. So there's so many on the market, ranging in price. How do you know which ones are worth buying?
Difficult to say without any examples.
Ooh, there's another question about therapy guns. So there's an example.
Massage therapy guns have been quite popular over the last 18 months. A lot of people use them. A lot of people gain a lot of benefit from them. They're new to massage guns themselves, are new to the environment, but the principle isn't. It's based on vibration therapy, and there's a lot of research out there which shows that vibration therapy helps to either stimulate the muscle or relax the muscle. It's a real good feel factor. A lot of people anecdotally are reporting lots of good reactions post-exercise to massage therapy guns. A lot of the research and evidence out there doesn't relate specifically to massage guns because they're quite new out there. So a lot of the positive stuff is anecdotal. I'm not being able to find anything which suggests that massage guns themselves are fully effective, other than anecdotal stuff. But so vibration therapy has been researched and does have some benefits of recovery and muscle relaxant. A lot of the good stuff out there in terms of massage guns relates to pre-activation work in terms of stimulating the muscle ready for exercise. It's well documented that it's probably more beneficial physiologically before you do your run to stimulate the muscle as opposed to post-exercise. But the anecdotal evidence is very conclusive that it is good. They're very important, they're quite expensive. If you can afford to get one, I'll try one. But they are coming down in price. I think time will tell with massage guns whether or not they're effective. But if you've got access to one, give it a go. Similarly, there are massage vibrating rollers, again on the same principles of helping muscle relaxant. They are quite expensive. I wouldn't advocate getting one unless you think you really need it or can afford it. I think as a rule of thumb, I would be looking to pay anything between £10 to £20 for a good, solid, effective foam roller, even down to a grid one. I think if you're looking to buy online, be careful with the gridded rollers. You really need to see how firm they are. A lot of the ones look quite firm, but won't tolerate a lot of pressure or will wear down quite quickly. So that's even with a more expensive one. So I think if you're looking for gridded ones, try and get access to one which you can actually feel, go into a shop or see what other people have bought.
There's a question about someone ran a half marathon last year and they found it really hard to get to sleep afterwards because everything hurt. So do you have any advice to manage this?
I would say initially do the basic elements of recovery in terms of hydration, nutrition, and then finish off with sleep. Some active recovery would help. So low intensity. I know probably people finish a half marathon and the last thing they want to do is do more exercise. But it can be something as simple as just getting on a bike, walking for a little bit of active stretch, dynamic stretch. Hydrotherapy is quite nice to help relax and just calming everything down. I think with with half marathon endurance runs, it is a big stimulator, both physiologically and mentally. So I think you need to just calm everything down, have a warm bath, what would help, good nutrition, pint of milk, chocolate milk would be quite good. But I think it's getting that neurological status back on equilibrium in terms of calming everything down, going to relaxation mode. A little bit of meditation might help next time out, just taking your weight away from everything. Depending on the race, a lot of the multi-event races are quite busy. There's a lot of people around, there's a lot of excitement, there's a lot of congratulation. I think if you have struggled in the past in terms of getting to sleep, I think it might be something you need to just switch off a little bit and take yourself away, have your food. Again, good sleep hygiene. The information we gave out earlier about preparing yourself to sleep is quite important. I know from experience that once you've done your half marathon, you like to look at your results. You find out the results are through. You spend time on your laptop, on your phone, checking how you did and looking at your splits. And maybe you want to do that away from bedtime. So if you have trouble sleeping after any exercise, any event, any race, look at your basics of recovery, calming everything down, and try and hit good sleep hygiene. I hope that helps.
There's 2 questions about stretching. So is it better to stretch before or after training? And also sometimes when someone stretches, their legs begin to shake. Is that normal?
Okay. I'll give the simple answer first. If when you're stretching you find your leg starts to shake, that's an indication that you're straining the muscle and it's trying to contract quickly to overcome the additional strain. So when you stretch a muscle, you should stretch it, don't strain it. So work with your muscle, not against it. So if it starts to shake or quiver, it's an indication that your muscle is fighting against that stretch being too much. So quite simply, just release that stretch, take it down a few degrees. You know, don't stretch it as much. When you stretch the muscle, just take it to a point, range of movement where you feel it biting, where you feel it just kicking in. Don't look at what someone else next to you is doing or what you think you should be doing. Listen to what your muscle tells you. It'll tell you when it's being stretched. It'll react slightly, it'll give you a little bit of a biting point. If you're stretching it too much, it'll be painful or it'll start to quiver. So quite simply, if you start shaking or quivering, just release that stretch a little bit and take it down a notch. Before or after, the age-old question of what's best to do. I like to give you advice if it depends what you're going to do after stretching. If you're doing high impact, high explosive, sprint-based work, power-based work, you need to prepare your muscles for that end of range of movement, high activity, explosive nature of your training program. And so you do need to stretch and prepare your muscles for end range activity in the build-up. If you're doing long distance running, slow running, graduated running, where you're not taking your muscles or joints to end range, you don't really need to prep the muscles because you're not taking them to that range. Your gradual exercise range of movement increase will develop as you increase your running during your exercise. So your muscle will gradually warm up, you'll get more blood flow, they'll increase their range naturally. So you're unlikely to go beyond end range or take them to the end range in a slow endurance-based run. So I wouldn't advocate it if you're doing long distance endurance, slow pace running. If it's part of your makeup and feel good factor to stretch, and do a little run first, do a little warm up, then stretch, getting ready to go. But if it's just medium pace, low intensity, you can run without need to stretch. Like I say, the important thing is, are you going to take your muscle range, are you going to take your joint range to its end range? If so, then stretch. If not, if you're working within that range, then you need to stretch.
Okay, so I'm going to do one last question.
Okay.
And it's, can you foam roll or stretch too much? So can you have too much of a good thing, Dave?
Too much of a good thing. I would advocate self-management, which stretching and foam rolling comes under, as to be part of your routine on a daily basis. If you exercise a lot, you can do too much if you feel that the act of foam rolling is either too taxing on your lifestyle. It's becoming laborious. It's becoming too much of a task, and you're not really enjoying it. Or you find that your tissues are reacting to that overload too much, and that you're finding you're getting fatigued from it. So again, like I said before, it's good to have best practice. It's good to have structure and a protocol. So you're more likely to stick to a program if you have consistency and regularity. If people start on self-management, they're quite enthusiastic to start with, and they will do it 3 times a day, 7 days a week, and that's great. But then that slowly tails off, and they miss a day, miss 2 days, and before you know it, they stop the whole program. And as I said before, you don't realise the benefits of self-management, stretching, foam rolling until you actually stop doing it. And then when you go back to doing it again, it's painful, it's uncomfortable, it's time-consuming. So that's why I try and set manageable targets of 3 to 5 times a week. It's something which isn't too onerous, isn't too time demanding, but is really effective. So you can't get too much of a good thing. I think that's the thing to say, because you will grow tired of it. And once you grow tired of it, you'll stop doing it. And when you stop doing it, then you won't get the benefits of self-management. The important thing with self-management, as the famous brand says, just do it, and you'll reap the benefits.
There you go, everyone. You heard it from Dave. Just do it. Thank you very much, Dave. That was really interesting, and
thank you.
Yeah, you answered loads of the questions, and I'm sure everyone enjoyed it just as much as I did.
Excellent.
If anyone does have any questions, please get in touch with Dave. Dave, do you have any kind of last closing remarks?
I would just like to say that self-management extends from all levels of athletes, be it international, elite, right down to people who just want to run for the enjoyment. Running is enjoyable. It's even more enjoyable if you're in a really good position to run. And I think that's where recovery comes into it. I think a lot of people who are new to running are often put off continuing it because it hurts and it aches, and they don't feel as good from the last run to the next one. So it's quite important, I would say, just to do it and enjoy your running. And I think you will enjoy your running if you start off running in a really good state of repair. And that's where recovery, self-management really hits that button right on the head.
Oh, that's really good. So everyone, keep running, get yourself in a good place.
Keep running. Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Dave, and thank you for everyone for listening in. We're hoping to do some more webinars coming up. If you've got any requests for content, please get in touch and let us know. But I'll leave you all to enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks again, Dave.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for attending. Thank you.